Well, at this point, the paint has been removed from the car. All the oxidized paint, the loose paint, a lot of it's cracked, so that's been sanded off mostly. And then I primed the entire car with an epoxy primer sealer, and then on top of that I put 2 coats of urethane high build primer on there, and then block sanded the whole thing down, finishing up with 400 grit wet or dry paper with a wet sanding. So basically the car is ready to be painted with the yellow base coat. Before I do that though, I'm going to paint some parts black, and I'm going to use a single stage acrylic enamel for that. I've got several things here that I'm going to paint. One would be the metal edge that goes around the Targa top, and over here on the front fascia there's some areas black that I want to paint as well. And I want to paint the door handles, and I would have loved to have taken them out of the car, but it was just a huge job, so I didn't do it, so I'll paint those on the car. I'm going to paint the fuel door emblem and the hood emblem as well, black. They cost about 75 bucks a piece new if you're going to buy them. And there's some parts on the Targa top that I'm going to paint black as well. I'm going to paint just this one little part here black, and then I'm going to flip the top upside down and paint the black parts inside of that. And while we're talking about painting, I guess the first thing I'd say is you see me using some plastic sheeting every now and then for masking. One thing I'd say, if you do that, is just use it one time, because if you try to use it again the second time, what happens is the paint won't stick to it, and about the time you're spraying something important, a big chunk of paint will blow off of the masking that was dried and get into your good paint. So just use this plastic sheeting one time or perhaps 2 times, but never use it before you're going to color coat. Got a fixture here to hold the Targa top edge, so I can paint all of that at one time. So right before I paint, I took some compressed air and blew all the nooks and crannies out of the car, and then I took and wiped it down with a product, Final Clean or something similar that's going to be a grease and wax remover. And the last thing I'll do is take a tack rag and then wipe things down with a tack rag right before I shoot. And I got 2 guns here. The gun I'll use today is this little one on the right. It's kind of a spot area gun, or a touch-up gun, and it works pretty well for what we're going to do today, which is not shoot a lot of big parts. Well, the moment of truth is here, I guess. I've got everything sealed with an epoxy primer sealer, and then primed with a urethane primer, block sanded down 400 grit. It's time to put the base coat clear coat system on, and I'm going to do it in 3 separate painting sessions, 2 of them small parts, and with a Targa top in the first group of things. And then the last session will be the car, and I'm going to put a black stripe on the hood as well, so that'll further complicate things. First time I've used base coat clear coat, so it's going to be a little bit of an experiment for me. I painted a 66 Corvette convertible and a 68 T-top coupe using acrylic lacquer, which was the state-of-the-art back then. But we'll see how it goes with this base coat clear coat. I guess my philosophy on paint products, maybe not everyone would agree with, but basically I'm painting a 1991 C4 Corvette. The value of that car maybe is anywhere between $5,000 and $8,000, I suppose, on a good day. I started looking at the cost of paint products and found out that Sherwin-Williams top of the line for a gallon of yellow was $850. And so by the time you add in everything else, you'd be looking probably at $1,500 worth of Sherwin-Williams paint products. So I did some shopping around, and I found a place out in San Diego that sells auto paint, and I know a lot of people maybe wouldn't agree with my purchase here, thinking, why would I be willing to gamble? I guess I just am willing to gamble on a car that's that old, and any improvement over what I do, or what it used to look like, will be an improvement. So I'm going to give this Restoration Shop Products a shot and see how it works out. So I've got the yellow base coat on the first group of small parts, and all in all it went pretty well. Found that I really needed to put 3 coats of the yellow on. It just took a lot to hide everything. The top's looking pretty good, and most of the other small parts are as well. And small parts are hard to paint sometimes because you've got a lot of different planes on the part all close together, so sometimes you'll get a run. And I'm the kind of guy that can ignore all the things that I did very well and then focus on the one or two things that I did not so well. And this headlight bezel right here, I got a little bit too much paint on there as I worked that edge and then that edge and then that edge. Tended to load up the paint right up on the corner, and I got a little run down there. So what I'm going to do is set it aside, let it dry well, and I'll sand those runs out and give it one final coat of yellow before I clear coat that part. Otherwise, these other parts are going to get clear coated here in about an hour or so. Well, the first shot of clear coat's on the car, and you can see the reflection of the light bulb in it. So all in all, I'm pretty happy. Every time I paint, there's always a learning curve because it's about 10 years between everything I paint, being 60 years old now. But one thing I learned with a clear coat is that you have to open up the gun a little bit more, maybe put just a little bit of reducer in it to get it to flow out well. So this part's done, other than sanding it down with 1500 grit and taking away whatever orange peel is there and buffing it out a little bit to make it really shine and look good. But all in all, I'm pretty happy with what I've got here. There's a little bit of dust in it for sure, but that's just the way it goes sometimes, I guess.